At 103 years old, Eleanor is the living embodiment of resilience and optimism. Her day begins with an energetic climb to the third floor of her old but cozy house, which she does effortlessly, without a single sign of shortness of breath or fatigue. 3 times a week, precisely on schedule, she packs her small tote bag and takes the bus to the city library, where she happily helps school children navigate the intricacies of classic literature. Her local physician, Dr. Harrison, who, by the way, is a full 40 years younger than her, can only shake his head in admiration and with a touch of professional envy when he looks at her test results and her stable, astronaut-like blood pressure. But the most amazing and striking part of her story isn't even that. Just 9 years ago, Eleanor's life was completely different, filled with pain and limitations. Back then, she moved around her modest apartment, leaning on a reliable wooden cane, took a full 11 different medications daily, and sometimes couldn't manage a simple household task, like opening a jar of her own homemade preserves, the crunchy pickles she had once canned herself. The transformation from a frail, despairing old woman into the energetic, radiant woman whom her entire neighborhood sincerely admires seems like a real miracle. And the secret to this miracle was not inexpensive medical procedures or incredibly complex diet systems. Everything was decided by 5 simple but incredibly powerful morning habits, whose existence and power most people aren't even aware of. Eleanor discovered these unique secrets herself, meticulously studying the lifestyles and principles of centenarians from all corners of our planet. The results of her personal experiment were so staggering that even her own seasoned physician, Dr. Harrison, couldn't believe the data in her medical chart. For over 37 years of her life, Eleanor dedicated herself to teaching literature at a local school and was immensely happy in her marriage to her husband, Arthur. Their life was like a good, wise book, full of mutual understanding, support, and shared joys. However, when Eleanor was 75, Arthur passed away, and her entire familiar, bright world collapsed overnight. A deep, all-consuming depression engulfed her. She lost interest in everything. She stopped cooking her famous borscht and juicy meatballs that her husband had loved so much. She almost never got out of her armchair, and she gained over 30 kilograms. Against this background, she developed type 2 diabetes, and her old arthritis flared up so badly that every, even the slightest, movement caused real agony. By 78, her life had been reduced to 11 obligatory pills, moving around the apartment with a cane, and the oppressive feeling that she had become a burden to her adult children, who, having built their own families, now lived far away, in Moscow and St. Petersburg. The turning point that forever changed her life came on what seemed like an ordinary evening, when she realized with despair that she couldn't open the jar of those very pickles she had once canned with her husband. The humiliation and shame were so strong that she had to call her neighbor, Aunt Lydia, burning with embarrassment, to ask for help. It was that night, sitting alone in her quiet kitchen and feeling a soul-chilling sense of shame and complete hopelessness, that Eleanor made the fateful decision that turned her remaining life around. She firmly resolved to find a way to live on. She began actively studying how centenarians in different cultures and countries managed to preserve not only their physical health, but also their mental clarity and life independence into their advanced years. What she discovered in her research amazed even her. and her subsequent personal transformation shocked everyone around her. Her blood sugar levels smoothly decreased from 8 to a stable 5. She lost those 30 kilograms, was able to stop taking 8 of her medications, and proudly put her cane away in a far corner. The 5 morning habits that brought joy back to Eleanor's life. Habit number 1, the sunrise ritual. 15 minutes of silence and light that restored natural sleep. The first, and perhaps most important of Eleanor's morning habits, sounds so simple it might seem laughable. However, the science behind this uncomplicated action is truly astounding.
Exactly at 6 a.m., regardless of weekends or the weather outside, she sits in her favorite wicker chair by the eastern window of her living room and spends exactly 15 minutes there. No glasses, no contact lenses, just her eyes, greedily absorbing the soft, diffused light of the coming morning, while she slowly, in small sips, drinks a large glass of pure water at room temperature. Here's what happens inside the body during this time. When morning light hits the retina, the so-called suprachiasmatic nucleus is activated, a tiny area in our brain that acts as the master biological clock. It sends signals to produce cortisol at the right time and in the correct proportion, while simultaneously suppressing the production of the sleep hormone, melatonin. For older people, this is critically important, as our natural circadian rhythms tend to become disrupted and weaken with age. Eleanor recalls that her nights used to consist of a series of painful awakenings, 4 or 5 times a night. She felt exhausted all morning and needed an obligatory nap just to maintain a semblance of functioning. She took strong sleeping pills to fall asleep and drank several cups of strong tea to somehow perk up during the day. After just 6 weeks of strictly following this simple sunrise ritual, she began sleeping soundly and continuously for 7 hours a night, waking up naturally and feeling a surge of energy. Her doctor, Dr. Harrison, was so astonished by the changes that he completely discontinued all her sleeping medications. An important nuance. For the effect to work, the light must hit the retina directly, not through window glass or the lenses of glasses. And this ritual must be performed within the first hour after waking up. If you live in an apartment where the windows don't face east, you can go out to the balcony or sit on a bench in the yard for just 10 minutes. An alternative could be a special light therapy lamp with a power of at least 10,000 lux. If mobility is severely limited, position yourself in the place in the apartment where the morning light appears at least briefly and falls on your face. Even on the cloudiest day, this method works, as the intensity of natural light is still many times greater than that of ordinary room lighting. Habit number 2, gratitude brought to life in message. How to reprogram an aging brain for a positive outlook on life. Immediately after the sunrise ritual, Eleanor moves on to the second, no less important action, which seems simple but possesses immense, scientifically proven power. She takes an elegant leather notebook, a gift from her children long ago, and combines in one exercise the practice of gratitude with a powerful memory training specifically designed for the needs of an aging brain. She writes down 3 things she feels grateful for that day. But the whole trick lies in a special approach. For each item of gratitude, she mentally returns to a specific memory filled with vivid sensory details. For example, instead of dryly writing, "I am grateful for my daughter," she carefully writes, "I am grateful for the warm, almost childlike expression on my daughter Masha's face last Sunday, as she gazed thoughtfully out the window, and for how the sunlight played in her hair, creating a golden halo. This is not just pleasant daydreaming or nostalgia. It's real neurobiology in action. Research, for example by Dr.
Rick Hansen, shows that when we intentionally and in detail recreate positive memories in our mind, engaging all our senses, we literally reconfigure the neural pathways of our brain, forcing it to more actively notice positive moments in the present. For elderly people who often struggle with loneliness, depression, or age-related memory problems, such practice can be a real revelation. Eleanor admits that she started this habit during the darkest period of her life. I felt completely invisible, unnecessary, as if my life no longer mattered to anyone, she shares. In the mornings, I could barely think of even one thing to be grateful for. Tears dripped onto the pages of the notebook. But after about 3 weeks of regular practice, something clicked inside her. Her brain, like a tuned radio, began automatically scanning the surrounding world for small, momentary joys. The friendly smile of a shop assistant, the perfect aroma of freshly brewed morning tea, the bright plumage of a bullfinch that flew to the feeder. The memory work here is no less important. As we age, we often fixate on cognitive decline, but active and detailed recollection forces the brain to create new neural connections and strengthen old ones. Eleanor soon noticed that not only did her memory for past events improve, but so did her ability to remember new information. The names of new neighbours, where she put her glasses or keys, details of a conversation with a friend yesterday. The emotional payoff was immediate. She felt a deeper connection with her own life story, and the feeling of loneliness noticeably receded. For those with arthritis in their hands or vision problems, the practice can be adapted. Speak gratitude out loud and record it on a phone's voice recorder. The key is to saturate the memories with sensory details: smells, sounds, tactile sensations, visual images. Habit number 3. Wise hydration. Why morning tea or coffee can subtly steal your energy. The third habit is related to correcting a common mistake that was literally draining Eleanor's strength every morning for years, and quite likely steals energy from many of us. Like most people, she used to put the kettle on first thing after stumbling to the kitchen to brew herself a strong cup of tea. This seemingly innocent habit was dealing a quiet but systemic blow to her body, the consequences of which she didn't realize. Eleanor's new morning ritual changed everything. Now, before allowing herself a cup of anything, before any breakfast, she drinks exactly 1 large glass, about 300 milliliters, of warm, pleasant temperature water, to which she adds a pinch of pink Himalayan salt and a few drops of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Why is this so important, especially for older people? After 6 to 8 hours of night sleep, our body is in a state of natural dehydration. Blood becomes thicker, joints become stiffer and less lubricated, and the brain, which is 80% water, literally shrinks a little. By adding a dose of caffeine, from tea or coffee, to such a dehydrated system, we force the adrenal glands to work in emergency mode, provoking an excessive release of cortisol, increased inflammatory processes in the body, and further dehydration. Eleanor learned about this while studying the practices of centenarians from the Japanese island of Okinawa.
where a similar morning water ritual has been practiced for many centuries. After just 2 weeks of following the new hydration system, she was surprised to note a significant reduction in pain in her arthritis-affected joints. The morning stiffness that used to grip her for several hours now subsided within 15 to 20 minutes of getting out of bed. Warm water promotes a gentle increase in blood circulation. The salt replenishes the necessary electrolyte balance, which is often disrupted in older people. And the lemon stimulates digestion and provides a light dose of vitamin C. Eleanor's biggest fear, like that of many elderly people, was frequent urination. I was afraid that because of this glass of water, I'd have to run to the bathroom all morning non-stop, she admits. But paradoxically, the opposite happened. Her body learned to properly absorb and distribute the fluid, rather than immediately excreting it. The secret is in the temperature and timing. Water at room temperature, or slightly warm, is absorbed by the body much faster and more effectively than ice-cold water from the refrigerator. And a half-hour interval between drinking the water and having tea gives the body time to fully hydrate before the mild diuretic effect of the caffeine kicks in. To not forget the ritual, Eleanor prepares her elixir of vitality the evening before, leaving a covered carafe on the table. If you need to take medication in the morning, be sure to consult your doctor about the timing. But most medications can be taken with this beneficial mixture without any problems. Habit number 4. Gentle awakening of the body. A 10-minute sequence that prevents the risk of falls. Eleanor's 4th morning habit is a special, very gentle warm-up that she performs without getting out of bed. This 10-minute ritual softly but effectively awakens her body from within, preparing it for the new day. This is not a sports workout, but rather a fine-tuning of her own body, taking care of its vulnerable points. Eleanor became acquainted with this ritual while studying recommendations from physiotherapists specializing in fall prevention for the elderly. At my age, a fall isn't just a bruise or a scare, she explains. It's an event that can change your life forever, depriving you of your independence. And stiffness in the joints and muscles makes that sad event much more likely. Her morning sequence looks like this. Ankle circles. Lying on her back, she slowly and consciously rotates her feet at the ankle joints, 10 times in each direction for each foot. This simple movement gets the blood flowing in the extremities and activates the proprioceptors, balance sensors located in the feet. Knee hug. Gently and smoothly, she pulls one knee towards her chest, softly wrapping her arms around it, and holds this position for 15 to 20 seconds, feeling the stretch in her back and thigh muscles. Then the same with the other leg. This fights the stiffness of the hip flexors, which remain in a static position overnight. Shoulder rolls. Without getting out of bed, she does 10 circular movements with her shoulders forward and 10 backward. This is excellent for counteracting age-related slouching and the supplicant's posture that forms over the years. Head turns. Very slowly and carefully, she turns her head left and right, as if trying to look behind her, then gently tilts it back towards the headboard and forward towards her feet. All movements are smooth and pain-free. Awakening shiver. To finish, for 30 to 40 seconds, she simply shakes her arms, legs, and even wiggles her fingers quickly and frequently,
to finally get the blood flowing and shake off the remnants of sleep. The scientific rationale here is very profound. Overnight, the synovial fluid, which acts as a lubricant in the joints, becomes more viscous, making movements stiff, painful, and unsteady. These gentle, smooth movements literally warm up and thin this fluid, lubricating the joints before the body's weight is placed on them. Dr. Harrison was amazed to see how much her flexibility and balance scores had improved. But the real test for her new habit came 6 months ago, when Eleanor slipped on wet tiles at the entrance to the clinic. In the past, that would have guaranteed a serious fall. But this time her body reacted differently. Developed flexibility in her hip joints allowed her to make a sharp compensatory movement, and her trained sense of balance helped her regain her position. "I know that fall could have broken my hip," she says with a tremor in her voice, "and this 10-minute ritual might have saved me from a wheelchair." Habit number 5, defining a daily purpose. The path from loneliness to becoming the heart of one's community. The 5th and final morning habit is what helped Eleanor transition from a state of uselessness and social invisibility to the role of the informal center, the soul of her neighborhood.
Every morning, after completing the 4 previous rituals, she spends exactly 5 minutes writing down in her notebook one very specific way in which she will make her, albeit small, contribution to another person's life today. Not sometime or this week, but within the current 24 hours. This may seem insignificant, but scientific research confirms that having a purpose in life is one of the most powerful predictive factors for longevity. When Eleanor first started, she felt deeply unhappy and worthless. What can I, a helpless old woman, offer anyone? She tormented herself. Her first written goal was to call a lonely neighbor, Aunt Catherine, just to ask how she was feeling after her dentist appointment. This action seemed so insignificant to me, almost shameful, Eleanor recalls. But Aunt Catherine burst into tears on the phone, saying that no one else had remembered. This tiny, at first glance, gesture created an incredible ripple effect. Aunt Catherine started Eleanor for tea, then introduced her to other neighbors. Soon, Eleanor was calling other lonely retirees, sharing vegetables grown on her small balcony garden, offering advice and support to young teachers from the neighboring school who faced problems familiar to her from her long professional experience. Within 6 months, Eleanor had become the person people came to for advice, support, and simply a heartfelt conversation. Science confirms the benefits of this approach. Research, for example by Dr. Patricia Boyle from Rush University, has shown that people with a high level of purpose in life and clear goals have a 44% lower risk of cognitive impairment and a 2.5 times lower likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease. Studies of blue zones, places on the planet with a record number of centenarians, demonstrate that having a daily sense of purpose, in Okinawa it's called ikigai, can add an average of up to 7 years to life expectancy. But the benefits aren't limited to longevity alone. Having a purpose reduces levels of chronic inflammation, strengthens the immune system, improves sleep quality, and increases overall life satisfaction. Eleanor's transformation was noticeable to everyone. Her adult children were surprised to note that their mother sounded more lively and engaged in phone conversations. Her doctor noticed improved posture and an unprecedented surge of energy. Even the cashier at the local supermarket once told her, "Eleanor, you seem to be glowing today." The key is in specificity and regularity, not an abstract, "I want to help people," but a clear, "Today I will call my grandson and ask him about his new project." Or, "Today I will sincerely smile and say a few kind words to the mail carrier who always delivers the mail so carefully." Eleanor keeps a whole list of such micro acts of kindness. Call someone who might be lonely. Share a tried and true recipe. Offer to water a neighbor's plants while they are away. Send a postcard to an old friend. Or simply listen to a person without interrupting or giving unsolicited advice. For those with limited mobility, contribution can also be made online. Leaving positive comments on social media, sending encouraging emails, participating in online quizzes or volunteer data digitization projects. The contribution doesn't have to be grand to be significant, Eleanor wisely remarks. Sometimes I set myself the task of simply smiling at 5 strangers on my way to the store. You have no idea how such a small thing can warm someone's day. She records her daily intention in the same notebook where she keeps her gratitude list, thus creating a holistic morning ritual that tunes both her mind and sets a positive, productive vector for the entire day ahead. The transformation that has occurred with Eleanor over these years can only be called an inspiring miracle. Let's take a look at the before and after picture that still amazes everyone who knows her. Then, at 78 years old, Eleanor took 11 different medications daily, moved around the house holding onto walls and leaning on a cane, and weighed 30 kilograms more. She almost never left the house, communicated with her children mostly out of a sense of duty, and spent her days in an armchair in front of the TV, immersed in a pit of self-pity. Her blood sugar level was 8.2, indicating pre-diabetes. Chronic joint pain never left her for a minute, and sleep without strong sleeping pills was impossible. Now, at 93 years old, Eleanor takes only 3 medications. She independently takes the bus to her volunteer work at the library 3 times a week and has such a reserve of energy that she could give many 50-year-olds a run for their money. Her blood sugar is stable at 5, which is perfectly normal. She lost 30 kilograms without resorting to exhausting diets, sleeps 7 to 8 hours of solid, natural sleep every night, and the pain from arthritis has decreased by almost 80%. But the physical changes are just the tip of the iceberg. The internal metamorphosis is much more important. Eleanor has become the social glue that holds her small community together, maintaining regular contact with more than 30 people. She mentors young teachers via Zoom, tends to a flower bed in the courtyard, and, to the astonishment of those around her, has started learning Spanish using an app on her phone. Her attending physician once noted that her cardiovascular health is comparable to that of a 70-year-old, and her cognitive functions match those of someone a good 2 decades younger. Eleanor's secret is not in magic pills or expensive health resorts. It's 5 simple, interconnected morning habits that work like a well-coordinated orchestra, creating a harmony of health and spirit. The morning light sets her biological clock. The practice of gratitude and memory trains and strengthens her brain. Wise hydration gently reduces the level of inflammation in the body. Gentle movements prepare her body for an active day, minimizing the risk of falls. And a clear awareness of her daily purpose fills her life with meaning.
and gives her a powerful incentive to wake up every morning with joy and interest. I'm no longer just existing, getting through one day after another, Elena says with a warm, glowing smile. I am truly living, and it seems for the first time in many, many years. Your personal action plan. Where to start tomorrow. Here is our sincere advice and invitation to change. Choose just one of Elena's 5 morning habits and try to follow it for just 7 days. Don't try to change everything at once. That only makes the journey harder. Elena herself started exactly the same way, step by step. Start with the sunrise ritual if you suffer from insomnia or poor quality sleep, or with wise hydration if you are bothered by joint pain or general morning lethargy. And then, we would be immensely happy if you came back and shared your first impressions in the comments. Did you feel a surge of energy? Did your sleep become more sound? Did you have more positive thoughts? If Eleanor's story has inspired you to believe that it's never too late to improve your health and quality of life, please share this text with those who you think especially need hope and support right now.